All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind. But we're going to have a show.
And hello, party people. Mark Thompson here on the Big Mark Thompson Show. I know it's exciting. Come on. Yeah. We had some clear air turbulence yesterday, but we have now reached a cruising altitude. Admittedly, we've had to cobble together a couple of pieces of the plane that will likely change, but this is, as I'm told, sort of the nature of the beast. Welcome to our program, which exists, some would say, KGO in exile. Some would say it's a brand new, improved show, although we've taken all of your favorites from the old show and we brought them over here. I'll bring them on in a moment. I wanted to tell you we faced a crisis. We've got a lot of cool stuff on the show. I also want to tell you about that. And I want to acknowledge our sponsor in a second, but I do want to tell you that we faced a cosmetic crisis a moment ago. Some of you would have been good with this. This is the kind of thing I find challenging. Now, in this environment, we feel a little more sort of unvarnished in our approach to everything. And so normally I'd put contacts in on television. I didn't wear the glasses. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but I'm just saying I didn't. Here, I've been wearing the glasses, and I've been going with the clear glasses. I don't have a ton of glasses, to choose from, but I have a couple of options. So it's either this today, which I have been wearing for the first week of shows.
How you doing, Professor? Yeah.
Yeah. Or this, the dark rimmed. These are the glasses that Courtney likes. I don't particularly like them.
I do.
You do?
Yeah. They're a little cooler, a little hipper.
Well, the clear glasses are actually
Kim,
cool with Gen Z.
Yeah.
So the younger kids are doing the clear rim.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
That hits me where I live.
Fabulous producer, John Daly.
All right. So
You
you're
want to be
saying
a hipster?
I want to be anything hipper and younger because that's always cooler. So you think this is hipper and younger? Tony feels that my eyes cannot be seen as well with these glasses.
There's a little more glare on those as well.
Thanks, Tony.
I'm going with dark rims.
Well, that might be what you're going for. You are a big deal.
It's really kind of
Kanye.
It's a toss-up in the chat room with Dennis liking the clear, Francis liking the what does Francis like? I think she might like the clear. Yeah, clear.
Negative on the dark rim, says Jim.
Yeah, we've got a lot going on here.
Light rim, says Patricia. Light rim, clear, vote for dark. Mine are black also, says Knit1 Pearl 1. You can reach us in the chat room, which is going on all the time through the show. On the YouTube chat, you can jump right in there. So anyway, I'm going to go dark. Maybe I'll just go crazy. I'll go dark for the first hour, and then I'll go clear for the second hour. I want to thank Tony, who's amazing, who put everything together on the fly. We had huge problems yesterday. And
thanks, Tony.
He's really ridden to the rescue again. Without Tony, we could not be on the air. I have no doubt that we would have missed shows. There would have been all kinds of issues. He is, to me, giving us technical oxygen. So love my Tony.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Oh, yeah, and smash it for Tony. Do this one for Tony. Smash the like button. I want to acknowledge, I see this, but I can't quite read it. It's the light rims look like have no eyebrows, says Becky. Well, that's the look I'm going for, Becky. I'm going for the no eyebrows look. All right, I think Tony's right. You can see my eyes better with the dark rims. We're going to talk about Leslie Jordan. We're going to talk about Kanye. We're going to get to the election season, which is upon us with such a short time before the midterms. It does indeed look like there'll be something of a red wave. It's of concern, but what is, I would suggest, of equal concern is what's happening at polling places in Arizona and elsewhere where you have these vigilantes really showing up, armed vigilantes showing up and intimidating voters just by their presence. And then to offset them, you have the appearance of law enforcement, right? And then the mere appearance of law enforcement is intimidating. So there's there's a new atmosphere around voting in America. Even as the electorate is energized, there are cross currents at the polling place and intimidation of poll workers, which we haven't seen in a modern era. So I'll get to that in a little bit. I wanted to acknowledge Steve Moskowitz, who is our founding sponsor. Without him, I don't know that we could get on as smoothly, even though it's not all smooth and not all the kinks have been worked out. But as we evolve, again, without Steve Moskowitz's support, we'd have to be hustling other sponsors. I was approached by a couple of other sponsors, and it was such a great thing to say, we have an exclusive sponsorship with Steve Moskowitz. He is our founding sponsor. He's an attorney, and he's been a Bay Area tax attorney, expert tax ninja for 30 years. So if you're an individual or you're an individual with a business, if you need help with your taxes, call Steve Moskowitz. It's 888-TAX-DEAL, 888-TAXDEAL, 888-TAX-DEAL. You can also reach him online. It's MoskowitzLLP.com. Again, smash that like button. That's how we do it. You got to smash it to, where's my smash it?
Smashed it with your iron rod.
I like to keep my smash it close at all times. On the text line, which is coming in, remember that polls account for likely voters. There have been a lot of new voters registered this time, and there will be a lot of unlikely voters, I hope. Oh, you're talking about polling. I'm talking about at the polling place. So, Eric, I'm talking about at the polling place, live voting. I'm talking about that intimidation. I'm not talking about the polling associated with a sampling of which way people will vote. So just to make that distinction. You can, what is it? No brow trumps high, what?
No brow trumps highbrow.
Oh, I see.
Fabulous producer, John Daly.
Thank you for that. Don't know where to start. There's a lot. Can I just quickly acknowledge this Leslie Jordan? I didn't know that this Leslie Jordan was on Will and Grace. Did anybody watch Will and Grace?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Kim, we used to watch Will and Grace, didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah. So
It was great.
Yeah, it was great. I loved it.
It was great. I loved it.
Thank you. Better late than never. Leslie Jordan had a weird accident. It's likely was preceded by a heart attack, don't you think? He crashed his car yesterday and died. He was on Will and Grace, actor on Will and Grace, right? And what I'm learning in published reports, and let me take off my glasses awkwardly to pass this on to you. At the scene of the crash, black skid marks from the boulevard into the sidewalk where Jordan's BMW slammed into the building. And then by late yesterday, he had passed away. He was in on the joke, said Dan Mirglot, a resident of West Hollywood, managing editor of the WeHo Times. That's West Hollywood in Southern California. He knew he was a little effeminate man, and he profited from it. It's great. He did have a huge life after Will and Grace on Instagram. That was the remarkable thing about Leslie Jordan, is he essentially built this really robust profile on Instagram. He had a lot of followers and as a social influencer.
He was in a lot of things. He's one of those actors where I didn't know his name, but the minute I saw his face, I knew that I knew him.
The tributes from Hollywood began pouring in. Eric McCormick from Will and Grace said that he was the funniest and flirtiest Southern gent I've ever known. The joy and laughter he brought to every one of his Will and Grace episodes was palpable. Palpable is a ding word. Leslie was flawlessly funny, a virtuoso of comedy. His timing, his delivery, all apparently effortless. You can't get better than that, wrote Megan Mullally, who played Karen on Will and Grace, who was Jordan's arch rival.
You know, she lives in Sebastopol.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
her
cool.
Her
I didn't
husband,
know that.
what's his name? The guy with the beard, actor.
I don't know. Could you be a little less specific?
Is that specific enough?
Oh, yeah, the actor with the beard, of course. Yeah, no name necessary. Anyway, she's there with him in Sebastopol.
Yeah.
You can, I think it's Google.
Google it.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So,
Nick Offerman.
Yes.
oh, of course, Nick Offerman. He's really funny.
The woodworker.
Yes, she, Megan Mullally, is incredibly funny, too, and she has a very distinctive voice, as you know. And I used to see her at ICM doing voiceover. We'd see each other, and she got her own show. She was very hot for a while. I mean, she's done extremely well, don't get me wrong, but she got her own show, and she had a lot of heat around her for a long time. There she is. It's nice that we've got Megan Mullally and her husband without a picture of Leslie Jordan, which is really what the story is all about.
But if you're going to label somebody the guy with the beard, it's going to be Nick Offerman.
Thank you. You're right.
Fabulous producer, John Daly.
Nick Offerman. Some mourners celebrating Jordan, who was openly gay, as an LGBTQ icon who expanded the possibilities of queer identity on and off the screen. You were truly one of the spirits that made aging as a queer man feel more exciting than existing in the present, wrote Tony Award-nominated playwright Jeremy O. Harris. Drag queen Trinity the Tuck, said she had seen Jordan in L.A. last week and considered the actor such a queer icon to me. A lot of LGBTQ, shall we say, mourners today are coming forward with all kinds of comments related to how important Leslie was to that community. So, again, I'll tell you that to me, the remarkable thing is after Will and Grace, after his life, Kim is right. He populated a lot of different projects, but that he was able to build this Instagram following and just be so funny and also so real. He had 4.7 million Instagram followers. After that, to kind of have a second wind, I think it's incredible. And he died too young, of course, which is why we're spending an extra moment or two on him. Was he 68? Is that what I saw? Anyway, is it?
Google it.
Well, it's right here.
67, I thought, but whatever. 1 year.
Thank you very much. Yeah. 67.
Kim, how are you?
67, 68. So Kim's living room today is a beautiful cityscape. It's a gorgeous cityscape. There's Leslie Jordan.
Yeah. Yes, this is New York City today. I've selected
Your house
for
gets
your.
around.
Yeah, I get around. Yeah, today we're at the guest house in New York City. We call it the guest house because we couldn't really afford the penthouse. So it's a couple levels down, but you can see the beautiful skyline, and we appreciate the twinkling lights in the evening.
How many bathrooms?
That I don't really give out that information. I don't. It's kind of private.
Well, maybe you can tell Brett.
Kim, how are you?
Tom says that Leslie was rocking the dark rims also.
Why don't you just text it?
I don't know if that's cool or if that means I'm going to have an accident later and this is it, the last show. We'll find out. I want to mention who's coming up on the show today. I have two great guests in the second hour. David Katz, the former U.S. attorney, assistant U.S. attorney. He'll be here, and we'll talk about the Clarence Thomas Clarence, I won't recuse myself, Thomas, with his 11th hour intervention, really, in the case involving Lindsey Graham in Georgia. As you know, he stayed the subpoena. So he's essentially said, hey, you don't have to honor the subpoena. It's a temporary stay, okay? That's important, and I think it's not being mentioned in enough reports. But I want to talk to David about that and about the essential hijacking of the Supreme Court. It's a remarkable thing, particularly by one guy who is who's hip deep in corruption, I think, and sedition, I would argue. But we'll get David Katz's view of that. That's in the next hour. Also in the next hour, ABC7's Dan Ashley, and Bay Area viewers know Dan Ashley. He's one of the premier anchors in the Bay Area for many years now. And the other thing is that he used to fill in on this show.
Thank you very much.
And there is, that's Dan Ashley. Yeah, and Rob Reiner. That's very cool.
I'm messing around with the share screen. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, nice job. So Dan Ashley will be here, and I want to ask him not about TV anchoring so much, but he was, I believe, he used to fill in here, and in his first day when he was filling in, Brett, who was doing the news then, asked him, and Brett was so cute because Brett was like so excited that Dan Ashley was coming in, the guy from TV. Brett is very sweet that way. And he talked about the fact that he was a figure skater at one point. And of course, he continues to be a rock and roller. Sammy Hagar's his best friend. So today I want to ask him a little about that. That'll all be in the second hour. So, meantime, I will. I'm sorry, things are a little bit crazy. I've got a different configuration because we want to get on the air a little more cleanly than yesterday, and it just has put me in a where I'm following things in different devices. So I'm sorry if I'm looking around a little quizzically occasionally. Quizzically, yeah, maybe a ding word. Okay.
What about sedition?
Sedition, yes, ding. As you know, Ukraine is being talked about by Russia as essentially about to launch a false flag operation. I just want to mention that for a moment because it's a classic move and it's very Putin-esque to do this. It's not unique to Putin, but it's typical of Putin to ascribe some kind of false flag move to Ukraine in this case, and it may tip the hand as to what Putin has planned. Now, if Putin really is serious about, and I'm talking about accusing Ukraine of being on the verge of detonating a dirty bomb. That's what is being floated by Putin. If Putin is really serious about a dirty bomb, as I've told you, in gaming out the detonation of nuclear devices, it all ends badly. There is an escalation in almost every kind of gaming out of this, gaming out that's done at the Defense Department and at think tanks, etc. So I hope, as does everyone, I hope that this whole thing winds down quickly. It doesn't seem to have that feel yet, but I really hope that we don't end up with some kind of nuclear detonation of any kind. These what they call strategic nuclear weapons. It's absurd and awful. So, Adidas dumping Kanye. So Adidas went Defcon 3 on Kanye. Kanye let loose with the anti-Semitism, and the Yeezy branded products accounted for 10% of Adidas's bottom line. So for them to say goodbye to Kanye is not easy. It's Yeezy, and it's bye-bye. So, yeah, thank you. It is
out of time. Bye-bye.
Yes, it was, right, it was bye-bye. Bye-bye for Kanye. Bye-bye, Kanye. You had to do that if you're Adidas, right? You had to. I mean, you can't countenance
seems
this.
like-
He's been working on destroying his career for a while now.
Yeah, he's definitely given to, shall we say, a lack of impulse control when it comes to what he says. And what he says, though, is poisonous. And now the rise of anti-Semitism in America is a reflection of the rise of hate speech all over the world, and honestly, the rise of anti-Semitism everywhere.
Karen's right when she says she wishes Kanye would get serious help because he's crazy. He needs help.
Right.
I don't know if these things that he's saying are coming from a place of maliciousness or just a place of your brain is not working. It's your, girl, you just woo kind of situation. So
yeah. I'm less sympathetic. I mean, I suppose I wish he'd get help, but he certainly has the resources to get help. He's probably the wealthiest guy who should get serious help that you can conceive of. His verbiage is so poisonous that it's hard for me to, and it's frankly unleashed other poisons. They're the serpents of hate and anti-Semitism. The Jew hating is just waiting to get out. And you saw it in Los Angeles with that sign over the 405. I mean, who are you where you hate Jews so much that you make a sign and you hang it over the 405 and you honk if you think Jews are the problem. And now there are all these flyers being distributed everywhere about the Jewish conspiracy and all the rest. And I'll remind you that was and is the first sign or a sign of the rise of fascism and authoritarianism. That's exactly what happened in Europe. The puppeteering, with the Jews as puppets, the wealthy elite Jews.
Well, and I don't think enough people are quick to call it out as they would with other issues. There seems to be a tolerance.
I think John is right. I think that there is a greater tolerance for anti-Semitism than there is, let's say, for racism. Now, we could have a longer conversation. It might be an interesting conversation. I'd love to maybe do that next week.
Who is having that conversation?
Who is having that conversation?
Who is having that conversation?
Well, we may have it next week. But nonetheless, I feel as though Kanye deserves to be cut off at the knees, and he was by Adidas. Sadly, he'll probably be paid. I'm sure his deal is sort of one of those deals where it's like pay or play. So, but for them to drop him and 10% of their bottom line, I'm impressed. I mean, I give Adidas some credit for that. Yeah.
I think he's being dumped by everyone he represented, and the people that represented him. His agent dropped him yesterday.
It should be. It's the nucleus of hate, grotesque hate, and it sickens me when I see it and when I hear it. So good for Adidas, good for his agent, and I'm sorry, Kanye West should have 10-foot pole marks all over him. No one should go near him. But anyway, that was kind of big news. So let me get to
the Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah, Steve Moskowitz is here, which is really cool. Steve Moskowitz is the OG when it comes to taxes. 30 years in the Bay Area. I want to talk to you about all kinds of different tax things. I know we touch on ERC regularly, Steve Moskowitz, because Steve Moskowitz, and I think you're trying to impress upon people that these programs go away. And so when the government is offering you money, you should try to grab it one way or another. And oftentimes it seems as though you're not eligible, but you are.
And Mark, that is so true and it's so important, because you should take everything to which you're legally entitled. And this is a program where the government is giving away. It's not a loan, it's a grant. They're giving away up to $26,000 for every employee that you have that qualifies. But I'm warning everybody against the two extremes, and here's what they are. There's two ways to qualify, and the law clearly says either or. One is real easy. It's a certain mathematical drop in your gross revenue. It's a number. You're either there or you're not. Nothing to think about. But a lot of companies and a lot of CPAs are stopping there because it's easy. But there's a second way. It's called a full or partial closure test. It's a facts and circumstances test. Like a grocery store is an essential business, but every business in the state of California was mandated to only use 25% of the inside of their business from the beginning of the pandemic until June 15th, 2021. That could qualify a lot of businesses, even essential businesses, or supply chain disruptions. But you actually have to sit down on it, work on it, and we'll take the time with you to figure out, do you qualify? Not everybody does. If you don't, we'll say, look, you don't qualify because of X. But if you do qualify, we'll say, you do qualify because of Y. That's important. An awful lot of people are being told they don't qualify when they do. On the other hand, there's a lot of fraud going on too. And a lot of companies have popped up just to do this ERC, and then they're going to disappear. They're not going to be around when the IRS has a few questions. So obviously, like anything in life, you don't want to be committing any frauds either. You never want to commit a fraud on your tax return, ever. And, people really don't know the difference. So I'm warning them against the two extremes. We're a law firm. We've been practicing tax law for over 30 years. We're here for you. And we want to determine, are you qualified or not? Not everybody qualifies, but a lot of people do. And if you do, we want to get you this free money from the government, which in a lot of cases can be very substantial.
Yeah, I mean, that's the remarkable thing, that there really could be serious money attached to this effort. So reach Steve a couple of different ways. 888-TAX-DEAL is his phone number, 888-TAX-DEAL. Or you can reach him online, MoskowitzLLP.com. So again, it's 888-TAX-DEAL or MoskowitzLLP.com. Steve, again, so grateful always for your support and for your presence on the show. And I get a lot of reaction from others who are so glad that you're part of things too and have pledged to use your services. And one way or another, we hope your clients will be made up in large measure by this audience. So thanks, Steve
Thanks so much, Mark. I appreciate that. And again, I've been your listener back to your TV days, and I really enjoy listening to your show.
Oh, you're the best. Steve Moskowitz, everybody. Thank you. Thanks, Steve. That's really cool. Yeah. So moving on, I would say that,
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah, thank you, Shadow. Did you see the price of the COVID vaccine?
Yeah.
So once the government, let's get into this real quick. Once the government, the government's been underwriting all of this, right? Once the government contracts end, and they have contracts the government does, I think, that kind of keep the price, if you want to think of it, artificially low, right? Pfizer is saying that the COVID-19 vaccine will be sold for $110 to $130 a dose. This is the, quote, commercial list price. The company says it does not anticipate that most people are going to have to pay out of pocket. Of course not. This is an insurance scam. Don't worry, you won't have to pay anything. We're scamming the insurance companies. Don't you get it? It's all an unholy relationship. The company says that it's pointed to a patient assistance program, which helps people without insurance get vaccines as well. For now, COVID-19 vaccines are still available for free. Pfizer says that it anticipates that the COVID-19 pricing could come into play when the distribution and reimbursement of vaccines goes from government contract to the traditional healthcare system. That's when the real money kicks in, right? That could happen in the first quarter of 2023. So, $130 a dose, that's real money. So,
and that's is that also for the booster?
Yeah. That's not fake. That's real.
And that's what?
Is that for the booster as well? If you needed the booster upcoming?
I think so. I think it's any COVID-related vaccine. I mean, they're always updating, quote, the vaccine.
Sure, right.
But is that? So it's that. I wanted to also mention, John, you'll help keep me on track here a little bit, but there was a story that I wanted to get to. Stand by 1 second. I'm gonna put that to the side for a second. You saw that Brittany Griner is appealing the 9-year prison sentence. She has that appeal going on in Russia right now.
I mean, really? You think Russia's going to back down on that 9-year sentence? No.
The whole thing seems sort of sad, I mean,
it's political anyway. There's no way. They'll probably say, no, not only will we not back down from the 9 years, we'll add an extra year for our trouble that you brought an appeal to court, because Russia.
Possibly. Yeah, I hate to say it, but possibly true. I mean, as I mentioned before, there's a blessing and curse to being high profile like Brittany Griner and being held in custody in a foreign country. Let's assume that, let's put the charges aside. I mean, I get it. She had this vape stuff with, and it's illegal in that country. Okay. So let's put it aside. She was found guilty. But the problem is now, normally you'd work through State Department channels, and being high profile can actually help in facilitating a release. But the facilitating might be a dinger. But I would say that in this case, that high profileness at a time of insane tensions between the U.S. and Russia hurts her, because you're really unable, as the State Department, as the U.S. government, to affect any real movement on this, because it would be viewed as giving in. I see her in a situation that oddly is compromised by being so high profile. Given the choice, I'd rather be high profile than nobody.
Well, this is the burden that you carry as celebrities, Mark.
Right, and I share that burden in other ways.
Do you know who I am?
Exactly.
I'm kind of a big deal.
We break for news, and then the magnificent Kim McAllister will take over. A break from my voice, I mean. And then Kim is here, and coming up, I should mention again, Dan Ashley from ABC7. His world as a rock and roller, his world as a former figure skater. And if you want to talk Clarence Thomas, and you want to talk Lindsey Graham and the legal machinations that continue in Washington to protect those people in power, we'll do that as well. We'll do it with David Katz. So all of that's still to come. So as we continue.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Good morning to you on the Mark Thompson Show. I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888-TAX-DEAL. Americans are not too confident about the economy. The Conference Board's Consumer Confidence Index falling 5 points in October after rising for 2 straight months. The board's Lynn Franco citing inflation worries with food and gas prices driving concerns. Also, Americans are not very optimistic about the prospects for the next generation. A Gallup survey found just 42% believe it is very or somewhat likely that the young people of today will be better off. It's tied with a previous low set back in 2011. One of former President Trump's top aides meeting with the committee investigating last year's Capitol attack. Multiple reports say Hope Hicks is appearing today for deposition. She is the latest member of the Trump administration to sit with investigators probing that riot. A ruling in California's serial case expected soon. A matter of fact, we may have one. A judge is denying a request for a gag order in the case of an accused shooter in the series of killings in Stockton. The judge rejecting the order requested by the legal team of the alleged shooter, Wesley Brownlee. In court today, Brownlee's team arguing that comments made to the media by the Stockton Police Department and the San Joaquin County DA would infringe on Brownlee's right to a fair trial. The judge in the case ruling the negative press wouldn't prevent Brownlee from receiving a fair trial, nor hinder the court finding an impartial jury. Brownlee has so far been charged with 3 of 6 related homicides. Law enforcement officials are expecting more charges to be filed for the other 3 killings and an attempted homicide of a woman in Stockton. Tennis superstar Serena Williams says she's not retired. Wait a minute, is she pulling a Tom Brady? Williams previously indicated she'd walk away from the game after the U.S. Open. She said the chances of a return to tennis are very high, and she has cited having a tennis court at her house. So, hey, she's not done. Don't count her out. A California woman has been tasked with the job of trying all things pumpkin. A team at Finance Buzz hired Sacramento resident and pumpkin lover Laura Clamon to fill a pumpkin spice pundit position to test taste all of Trader Joe's pumpkin-flavored fare. Clamon is the founder of the Pumpkin Everything Facebook group, which has more than 140,000 followers. She was sent to her nearest Trader Joe's to purchase, taste, and rank all of the pumpkin-inspired items on the store's shelves. Her top 5 treats: the pumpkin breakfast and snack bars, the pumpkin cranberry crisps, the gluten-free pumpkin bread and muffin mix, and the pumpkin brioche twist. And taking the top spot, the spicy pumpkin samosas. I can't believe she didn't pick their pumpkin ice cream. That's really the best. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses alike. You need help with your taxes? Give Steve a call. It's 888-TAX-DEAL. You can get him on the web, moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now, he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson. The Mark Thompson Show.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
What he's got going here is a situation.
It's unbelievably offensive.
Put up your pants, my man. Pull up those pants.
Ralph Nader just sent me a book. Did he send you one too?
I offer this sincere apology to you today.
Call me a liar. Now what you call me?
You, sir, are a liar.
You are a cover-up artist and you are a liar.
Liar, liar, your pants are on fire!
All right.
Woohoo! A Google told me.
Can you let him finish, sir?
It was wrong, it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
I'm going to tell you what I think.
What are the porn stars doing?
Do you have a secret talent?
This
and itty bitty bit of weed?
It's 100% effective. How about that?
Say what?
Everybody up! Yeah!
And this is their new home.
You're Harrison back!
There is no defense for my conduct.
I misspoke.
Another
I
round
stand
for
corrected.
everybody. Another
And I
round
wanted
for
to
everybody.
apologize to the Asian community, the Asian American community.
Time's up, mother effers.
Well, wow, that took a lot out of me. Welcome. This is the Mark Thompson Show. So cool that you join us. We're on YouTube with a live show every day between 10 and noon. I am your humble host, Mark Thompson. I am not humble. Well, I'm less than humble host. I've got a great crew with us. We've got Kim.
Kim, how are you?
You just heard her news, and you know fabulous producer John Daly.
Fabulous
and of course,
producer John Daly.
Tony is our technical.
Tony, what angered you?
Yeah, is our technical advisor. It's been a festival of apology. I don't know if you saw it. Kim, can you ready? I'm going to do this first apology from the mayor first. The mayor of San Francisco apologized. But then can you ready the email about the Patti LuPone? You know the one I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But
I think it was a text, so I can't put it up, but I'll read it for you.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
And we have a couple thank yous here to get.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Should we do those first, John?
Yeah, we should.
Wow. Tom, $75. Come on for that. Great job, guys. Thank you. Give Kim a few bucks to cover the furniture in plastic. John Schneider said the same thing yesterday. That's funny. David, is it Strelitz?
Yeah.
David Strelitz, $20. Thank you. Really cool. Love that. I am appreciative
Thank you so much.
Yeah, to everybody. And of course, as we've told you before, smash that like button.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
James Buchanan with $4.99. Thanks so much for helping us out in the super chat. You can contribute, and of course, in the super chat, that money comes to us through YouTube.
Thank you
yes,
so
it's
much.
true. Thank you very much. That is James. Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Dan Ralph, John Schneider from Dukes of Hazzard in Smallville. If you want. Yeah, that John Schneider, right. It was a great apology to the Asian American community. Yeah, apologize to well, no, this apology that the mayor has loaded. By the way, I got listener Bradley made us I believe a jingle for apologies. I think I have it here.
Correction and apology.
Yeah. Can you correction and apologies from
Correction and apology.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, that's nice. Okay.
Yeah, so now we can apologize to all the various communities that we need to apologize to, or just feature the apologizes of others, the apologizing and apologize-ness of others. You know, that happens. And so let me do that.
I was wrong, period.
The San Francisco mayor, London Breed, feels heat for remarks about Honduras. She meets with Latino leaders. This is what you have to do. It's not just you're in trouble when you can't just get away with an apology, and just say, I was wrong, I misspoke. The whoopee apologizing.
I stand corrected.
Right, that thing.
I misspoke.
Yeah, when you need to meet with the minority group that you insulted, that's a real walk back. That's a long day. San Francisco Mayor London Breed issued an apology Thursday for comments she made linking the Honduran immigrant community to drug dealing in the city.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. In clips from the hour-long interview that was a public radio event, she circulated on social media this apology, which followed the circulation of the insult that had
They're looking at
preceded
your social
it.
media.
They're looking at your social media. Where's that? That's Walker? You got
They're looking at your social media.
Thank you. By the way, somebody emailed yesterday saying, it was the greatest thing to have John doing all the drops yesterday. I'm hoping that that's a one of a kind, but it really was great. If you missed it, you know, we lost everything yesterday. It was like really like the bottom fell out. And so John did all the drops, and he would like interrupt Josh Mankiewicz, who was our guest yesterday, with a drop of one sort or another. You did a great job.
I'm
with
glad
that,
he
John.
was cool with that.
Yeah. He said, Mankiewicz said, gee, if I'd known there were no drops here today, I don't know that I would have shown up. In her written apology, London Breed said that while trying to explain the situation on the Tenderloin, she, quote, failed to accurately and comprehensively discuss what is an incredibly complex situation in our city and in Central America. So you get the idea. Anyway, that's the San Francisco mayor.
Do you think she wrote that?
I'm sure it was reviewed by a couple of people. Don't you think?
And I wanted to apologize to the Asian community, the Asian American community.
Yeah. All right. So
it's not about how you feel.
Right. It's not. But I also got this. I want to apologize. I stand corrected on.
I stand corrected.
What
on
now?
Patty LaPone.
Oh, that's this one. Yeah.
Yeah.
You want me to read you the message?
Yes. Would you please?
So this is from Flo, and
the other day we had done a thing about Patty LaPone. She is someone who is a famous Tony winner. She got Tony recently for her performance in Company, the revival of Company on Broadway. But the other thing is that she's famous for, and this is what we're talking about, literally going into the audience and taking your cell phone from you if she sees it on during a performance, which, by the way, is defensible as a performer. I mean, those cell phones should not be used during the performance. It's just not cool. Not cool to the people around you. Not cool to the performers on stage. You've all paid $200 up to be at these Broadway shows. So anyway, that was Patty LaPone. We talked about her a couple of days ago. Now, go ahead, Kim.
So Flo is a huge lover of the show and Porter. Also big into theater. Teaches theater, has directed shows. He writes, well, my main bone of contention was on the facts of Miss LuPone. Mark said she was married to Andrew Weber and starred in the original production of The Phantom of the Opera on Broadway.
I did say that.
As soon as I heard this in the podcast archive, I posted to the chat room that she was never married to Andrew Lloyd Webber, nor did she star in that original production of Phantom. That was Sarah Brightman, Lloyd Webber's wife. Patty was the original Evita on Broadway, among other great roles.
Of course.
To this very day on TV and film too. Correct me if I'm wrong, right?
Patty was the original Evita on Broadway, Mark. How could you possibly make this mistake?
Phantom.
She never performed in Phantom.
If there is a small window in the show, can you please let Mark know? And that I love his show.
You must correct.
Wait, so you misspoke?
I misspoke. Where's the I misspoke?
I misspoke.
Yeah.
You married to the wrong dude, starring in the wrong
unacceptable.
My gosh. I want to apologize to Chris's family.
I want to apologize to Chris's
your words
family.
Hurt so many people.
Yeah, my words hurt so many people. It's true. Where are all my apologies? Oh, I don't know.
You should have those up front.
I should. I don't know. I don't have anything where it normally is. But
I stand corrected.
Okay, that was good. All right.
My words upset so many people.
Great. But, this is not rehearsal. This is the real thing.
Okay. Well, we could have Whoopi on standby just to apologize.
Yeah. I stand corrected, and I
misspoke. My words upset so many people.
Yeah.
Like she's ready to go.
I did. It is true, though, that was... Thank you. I was wrong about that. Please apologize with a golden rod. Smash it.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Smash the like button on this video, if you would. Smash the like button if you're watching it back, and smash it if you're watching it live. That's the world of YouTube. So
I have another.
You have to hit the thumbs up. Yeah.
I have another one. This is a story from James Corden. Are you ready for this one?
Oh,
Comedian
yes.
James Corden is admitting he was wrong after being kicked out of the New York City restaurant that you reported on the other day. The Late Show host said he was eating lunch at Balthazar with his wife, who has a food allergy, and that she had been brought the incorrect order 3 times. He called
I was wrong. Period.
Heat of the moment, comment about cooking the dish himself, adding he deeply regrets the exchange. Corden said in his opening monologue on Monday's show, he never intended to upset anyone, and he would like to apologize in person. So
my words upset so many people.
Well, they did. He got a bad rep, but then what started happening was something else. Other reports of what a jerk he is in restaurants started to come to the surface. So this is the thing. I mean, one incident prompts stories of other incidents that were never reported. And so,
but also asking for everything to be comped.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure you'll comp these drinks. I mean, really, James Corden? I've said before, if you're a high-profile person along the lines of James Corden, I mean, he's wealthy, he's powerful, he's high-profile, he's a major celebrity. You need to be cool, dude. And if you don't feel like you can be cool, then don't go out.
I also saw another interview where he was sitting apparently with a New York Times reporter, and someone at the table next to them had a problem with eggs. Their order of eggs was messed up. And he said, see, it happens 55,000 times a day. And so he was kind of like trying to dismiss it as not a big deal. So obviously he's been coached by his PR people, and they've agreed to this interview.
Yeah, I mean,
If I'm being honest, it was horrible.
Yeah, it was horrible. It was horrible. It was horrible what he did. Look, we've all been in those situations we talked about the other day, but yeah, the apology from James Corden, very necessary, and as I say, it may not be the first one and the last one. You can reach us at the email address. In fact, the email address has been used by many.
Why don't you just text it?
Okay, you can also text it into the YouTube chat. Right there on the YouTube chat, we see them, and we'll try to interact with you in real time. But the email address
I've received a lot of positive
is
letters.
themarkthompsonshow@gmail.com. Okay, themarkthompsonshow@gmail.com. And we're working out a couple of technical things as we continue to, to fly here, getting more altitude every day. Can you see my new shelf? This is a new, this shelving behind me. Yeah,
is that a sex toy behind you or a drinking
yes,
implement?
Yes, that's a sex toy. These will be sex toys we sell on the merch site, getmarkmerch.com. Yes.
Okay.
It's a,
what am I part of here? I don't know what I'm doing here.
This is actually a
easy now
cobalt blue bottle.
Okay.
That I purchased in Tanzania. I was in the wilds of Tanzania. I wish you could have been with me. It was an adventure for all adventures.
And you saw them in a Tanzanian shop and said, "I must have it."
That's right.
So there you were, Jay Peterman.
Yes, that's right.
Elaine,
let me tell you, I was in Tanzania, and I knew that the bush people needed some money. I said, how many of those bottles can you pack onto my plane?
You're going to have to apologize to the bush people. You're setting yourself up.
Oh, my God, you're right. All right. Do we have time? What am I doing now, John? Is it law and disorder?
You mean what we were supposed to do? Law and disorder.
Law and disorder. Okay. I do have a great law and disorder. I hope I can find it. But for now, let's do some law and disorder.
In the criminal justice system, the people,
pimps, addicts, thieves, bums, winos, girls who can't keep an address, and men who don't care,
are represented by two separate yet equally important groups.
A cop, a flatfoot, a bull, a dick, John Law, you're the fuzz, the heat, you're poison, you're trouble, you're bad news.
These are their stories.
Federal prosecutors have nailed yet another January 6th participant. This one was a pretty nasty participant. This guy illegally forcing his way into the Capitol. This is, of course, around the certification of the last election. The warrant says that FBI agents got a tip, though, that this dude, Bledsoe is his last name, Matt Bledsoe is his full name. I got a tip that he was part of the group inside the Capitol. How do you think they got that tip? Because his wife couldn't help but do the social media flex on where her husband was. She was so excited that he breached the Capitol that she went on Facebook and announced it. And the...
Checking in at the Capitol.
Fabulous producer, John Daly.
Oh, unreal. So he ends up getting charged, and he ends up getting, is there sentencing on here? I don't see it. I don't think he was sentenced yet, but the
Hashtag insurrection.
Yeah, exactly. So there was a lot of that. There was a lot of that. For the amount of lawlessness and what was going on, there was a ton of peacocking going on. It's almost as though in this new age of social media, like that's the way that you get cred with your community, is with that brag. You know, I'm here taking back America. And again, I'll take a meeting on any policy decision and any political stance, but that was clearly a violent insurrection. It was a violent takeover of the Capitol. And so when you say, hey, I'm here taking back my country, okay, well, by the way, your country has some questions for you after that. So that is that. And the latest, as I say, done in by his own wife and her inability to keep these brags off social media. An Indiana woman gets 115 years for poisoning a man's oatmeal and strangling him with his favorite tie. Everybody, that's a that's a
random
that's a
man
lot of
or
hate.
A man that really pissed her off.
It's her child's father, so they couldn't say in the headline that, but it was her child's father.
That makes more sense then.
Yeah, she strangled him with his favorite tie, and she was 42, or is still 42 probably. Heidi Marie Littlefield is her name. And she got sentencing it was Friday. I wanted to share this with you, but we were already off the air. 60 years for murder, 55 years more on counts related to conspiracy to commit murder, because, as I say, she poisoned the oatmeal, and when that wasn't enough, she strangled the guy with the tie. The two were in the middle of a custody battle about their 2-year-old child.
I guess the poison didn't work fast enough.
Yeah, she wanted,
she'll
die.
She'll be out when she's 157.
Oh, my God. I mean, yeah, if you take care of yourself in the joint.
It's not quite as brutal as
only mostly dead.
Yeah, he's only mostly dead. I want him completely dead. I want that tie.
It's not quite as brutal as the wood chipper murders, but she got a longer sentence, so,
Yeah, that's true. She got a longer sentence than the guy who we talked about yesterday in the wood chipper murders, who murdered his wife, chopped her up in a wood chipper, only got 50 years, if you missed it. Yeah. There was an alcohol takedown in the Bay Area. That's right. This is pretty big. Police find a vehicle loaded with high-end booze, and they link it to several recent thefts. 2 suspects are arrested in all of this. It's in Los Gatos where this happened. Officers located the vehicle and this large quantity of alcohol stolen from a grocery store, according to cops. Suspects booked into the Santa Clara County Jail.
Was this a Rolls Royce? Because remember, that's where the dealership is.
That's where the Los Gatos.
Oh, that's right, in Los Gatos. That's right. I thought you were referring to the fact that it was kind of a low-end heist. You're just ripping off a bunch of alcohol. I doubt they're driving a Rolls, right? Well, I don't know if I want to go into this. Let me do a serious story, and then I'll give you something bizarre, and we'll finish. Yeah. There have been so many shootings lately, and I think in America it's become almost so commonplace that we don't react with the outrage we should. But having said that, we've reacted with the outrage we should, and nothing seems to change in America. So it's just the United States of guns as it is. And that 30-year-old who shot into the Dallas hospital, you remember that? Fatal shooting of 2 Dallas hospital employees. At that medical facility. He was at the medical facility. This is in Texas. He was at that medical facility for the birth of his child. He was granted leave to be with his significant other at Methodist Dallas Medical Center during her delivery, according to the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. He'd been sentenced to prison for aggravated robbery, was released on parole, but did not provide additional details, apparently, cops didn't, as to circumstances around the shooting. But he was out on parole, and as I say, he was awaiting, he was sentenced to prison for aggravated robbery. He was awaiting return to prison. He opened fire at the hospital around 11 a.m. So it was tragedy on tragedy, and bizarre that he was there for the birth of his own child. And then finally, I wanted to share this because we just couldn't resist it. It is the, let me see if I can find it now. Here it is. An Ohio man. This is in Ohio, where things happen. This is one of those things, and you'll get why I'm a little halting in my explanation as I tell you about a guy from Johnston Township, Ohio. He is facing drug charges. These drugs and stolen items were removed from his car following a traffic stop. And then he's taken in the car, and during his ride, he is... hang on a second. Let me find it. They, I guess he was, as he was being taken to jail, I'll just read the report like this. He kept moving around in the back seat and at one point was laying across the seat with his shorts around his ankles. His hand was, this is a quote, digging into his anus.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't
Straight
know.
Up, right in, no problem.
Yeah. He had stolen items and drug paraphernalia, and apparently maybe he had, more stuffed up in his rectum. Who knows? But that was the story to end all stories. I saw that over the weekend. I thought, are you kidding? Wow, unbelievable. That, John, is there any other story you want me to do today, or can we push?
The unfortunate part of that is that there's some officer that's got to take that guy out of the car and fingerprint him.
Oh.
Now, is there a stop in the restroom for a hand washing first, or is there a? I mean, how does that work out?
Just too good.
You see, these are the jobs that I would not want to have. No.
That is a great call, though. That's absolutely right. Oh my God, there's another part of the story unreported. So that's Law and Disorder for today.
Tune in again next time for more Law and Disorder on the Mark Thompson Show.
All right, that's it. Let's roll. Hey, let's be careful out there.
I do want to encourage you to hit the like button. I've got to remind you occasionally because you've got to smash it with your iron rod.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Or just with your thumb or other finger, you just hit the thumbs up. So the way it works in YouTube land, as I am learning, is so you'll have all of these people watching, and you'll have all these people who have watched on the recorded version, and they look at the percentage of people who watched and the percentage of people who liked. I mean, it's pretty wild. I mean, these are all things that I'm just learning, so it's important that you like the video, it's important that you subscribe, and that you share as we try to evolve this show, as we try to raise money to, to bring this show technologically up and to increase the, frankly, the capacities of the show in every way. So as we do that, I'll be repeatedly telling you I appreciate it, the support, because I do. I think it's a new model, honestly. And so we've taken Kim and we took John Daly and we picked up Tony, all to make this happen and give you the same show you're used to with maybe a couple of tweaks and maybe even a couple of improvements. So thank you. Steve Becker does recognize Kim as having brought to light the key fingerprinting issue, underreported.
Yeah. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was there, and I didn't see it. You're right. I mean, it was one of those.
It's all there, black and white, clear as crystal.
Well, I get it, but it was
then the
not clear
officer's
to me.
home, and the wife says, "Honey, how was your day? How was your shift?" And he's like, "You know what? Don't." That's when they say "don't ask." That's when you're like, "Really, don't ask. Don't ask me."
It is
how
so
my day
true.
was. Good one bullet I had to do at work.
It's never easy in this business, you know what I mean? That's the thing. It's one of those deals where it's
This is no picnic, no summer camp.
You're right about that. All right, so let's wrap out hour one. You can reach us on our magnificent text line. I encourage you to jump on it. The text line is right there on YouTube.
Why don't you just text it?
And you can also smash it. I told you about smashing the like button, and you can hit the super chat. If you're in Super Chat, we'll read your text 100% of the time because that gets us money to support the show, and so we need to do that. So
100% effective. How about that?
Yeah, so there's a super sticker from Ray. Thank you, Ray. Love you, my friend. Yeah. Mad love to everybody who supported us. Next hour, I've got David Katz. We'll lead off with what's going on with Clarence Thomas and Lindsey Graham. And then Dan Ashley from ABC7. Kim's News is coming up next, though. That's going to be fun. So much to come in the second hour of the Mark Thompson Show. Thank you for being here.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. The Biden administration is slamming a decision by a Russian court to keep WNBA star Brittany Griner in custody. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan called today's appeal hearing another sham judicial proceeding. The statement was made after the Russian court upheld Griner's drug conviction and 9-year prison sentence. Cases of respiratory syncytial virus, or RSV, are on the rise across the country. One pediatrician in Virginia says the illness is spreading faster than hospitals can handle, and it's likely to continue spreading throughout the winter. At one high school in Virginia, nearly half the students stayed home sick last week, reporting flu-like symptoms. RSV is responsible for a majority of pediatric cases, as it's more common respiratory infection in young children. Doctors say RSV may present like the common cold. The Democrat running to be the governor of Florida is disagreeing with the Biden administration on whether the border is secure. When asked that question, Charlie Crist said, "Of course it's not. We all know that." He called for comprehensive immigration reform to be passed by Congress. Crist's answer, though, directly contradicts what the Secretary of Homeland Security said this summer in Colorado. Alejandro Mayorkas saying the border is secure, before adding, "We're working to make the border more secure." He explained it was an historic challenge. Jurors in Michigan starting deliberations today for the 3 men accused of plotting to help kidnap Governor Gretchen Whitmer in 2020. The closing arguments came today for Pete Musico, Paul Beller, and Joseph Morrison. They're all charged with a felony of providing material support for terrorism, as they allegedly took part in the planning of Whitmer's kidnap plan. The FBI broke that up. A new tool coming to areas of Southern California prone to wildfire. It's called Firebird. The 360-degree thermal camera system is developed by Azusa-based company Lindsey FireSense. On Monday, the city of Rancho Cucamonga, which is between the foothills of the San Bernardino Forest, announced the approval of 30 Firebird units that will be installed along the northern edge of the city by early next year. The cameras can detect the smallest of fires and contact the fire department within 2 minutes. Now, if that works, we'll probably see those all over California. The hit British TV show Doctor Who is coming to Disney Plus in a landmark deal. Disney has acquired the streaming rights to the BBC fan favorite show. Disney Plus will exclusively stream all upcoming seasons of the show. The new season is expected to debut sometime late next year. The president of Disney Plus, Elisa Bowen, says the streaming giant is very excited to introduce the next generation of audiences to Doctor Who. This report is sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses alike. If you need help with your taxes, please give Steve a call, 888-TAX, or you can get him on the web, moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson. Feel it in your soul. The Mark Thompson Show. It's the Mark Thompson Show.
What up, party people? What up, everybody? Glad you could make the party. Yeah. It's our show for this Tuesday. Got a couple of questions about David K. Johnson, and I've mentioned it before, but maybe you missed it. David K. Johnson's away for 7 weeks. He's taken his wife on a vacation because he was saying to us that it's very hard for her to get away. Like, she just doesn't ever get away. So he has taken her away for 7 weeks. As a result, he's off the show for 7 weeks. But I think there's every indication that he'll be back on Tuesdays with us. So look for that. But we've been trying to, and it's kind of been fun sort of to fill his spot. And then we'll fill it regularly with different people who can give us some perspective on legal proceedings in Washington, on government, on the Supreme Court, and all the rest. And if we get David Katz today, we'll make that happen. So that's just one of the things that we'll be filling in until David K. Johnston comes back, as we try to keep you with the same format that we had on the old show, which is Tuesdays with David K. Johnston, the Pulitzer Prize winner. You can, as I've told you before, please like the show. You can like it, and we need you to like it. So just a thumbs up, and we appreciate all the different ways that you support us. We've gotten great support, and I'm hoping we can sustain it, because with your support, we can keep the show going. And again, I sound like I'm pitching for Jerry's Kids every time I do this show, and it's kind of an awkward thing. I'm just not used to it. I come from the broadcast model where you have sponsors and advertisers, and I can just worry about the show. Now I have to worry about, trying to get contributions on an ongoing basis to keep our head above water. So
you were never a busker.
I was never a busker. I was always generous with buskers, though. Now that I am a busker, I'm a broadcast busker, I need to ask you to be generous, you, the listening audience. So, super sticker, come on. Thank you for the super sticker. Who is that? That was, there they are. Celeste. Thank you, Celeste. John, listening, watching every day, $10. Thank you, John. Thank you very much, my friend. Very, very cool. Jackie. Thank you, Jackie. Yeah. Jan Fada with a super sticker for 10.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Ray, is it Perrin? Ray Perrin with a $20.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
hey, David.
Super sticker.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think if there's 2 R's, you have to roll them.
Yes, David?
Ray Perrin?
Perron.
Perron, yeah. But if it were Perron, maybe you're right. I don't know. Big shout out, Ray, either way.
Big shout out.
Yeah, either way.
He's probably like, you guys are lame. It's Perrin. Leave me alone.
Well, it looks like it's Perrin. There's no accent, but you're right. We've covered every pronunciation now, so that covers me.
Hey, David,
I
can
will.
you hear me?
Now, and you can hear John trying to get David on the line. John is.
David, can you hear me?
Yeah. David, can you
yes,
hear
John.
me? Yeah,
we can hear you, buddy.
That's right.
Annie, are you okay?
Producer John Daly.
There's a lot to coordinate, because in the old days it was just a phone call from David. Now we send him a link and he joins us, and that's the way we do it. Andrew, thank you, my friend, for the super sticker donation.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And there's super stickers and super chats. We'll read your chat comments, regardless of what they are. I shouldn't say that. I suppose there are comments we wouldn't read, but in general, we haven't run into them. And we'll read those in the super chat for any donation. I perform for a living, and hawking yourself is never easy, Mark, but it's also never the drag we think it is. Promote the greatness. Wow, thank you, CJ. Promote the greatness. I kind of love that.
I have to say something about this text that we got to Tenuta Vineyards. Here's the text. It says, how about Mark's video tour of Tenuta Vineyards would be something to watch on a nice Sunday afternoon? It's a wild idea.
Ooh, it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
So I cracked open my bottle of Why Are You Yelling Red? And I did that the night Sunday afternoon. My neighbors,
it was great. I loved it.
Yeah.
Big listeners to Station X and the Mark Thompson Show, invited me over to talk about what happened and have a little wine. So I brought the Why Are You Yelling Red?
Yes.
Roger said it's the best red wine I have ever had in my life. I was surprised. You open up the Why Are You Yelling Red? It's jammy and full of fruit. Of course, up here in the wine country, we know wine, right? That's some good wine. I wasn't expecting greatness, but I'll tell you, that Why Are You Yelling Red? That hit the greatness level. That was so good.
It's fantastic.
Well, it's at Tenuta Vineyard. And I haven't talked to Tenuta Vineyard since leaving KGO. I don't know what their deal is, but I'm sure they're still with us.
I enjoyed my Which One of You is Mark Thompson Pinot Grigio.
Yeah, that is a special offering, and I like it on a warm day. The Which One of You
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
Yeah, that white offering is particularly good.
I kind of have to compromise because I live in San Francisco, so in terms of a warm day.
Is that a specialty, the Why Are You Yelling Red, or can I get more of that? Can I buy that?
It's a special blend, but you can order it at Tenuta, and they still have it. So I believe they still have it. So the reality is that I need to speak with them. It's just we've been a little overwhelmed, but I'm sure they have it. If you call Tenuta, they'll get it for you. Yeah.
It's really good.
Why Are You Yelling
If
Red?
anyone's looking for a really nice red, that's a good one.
Well, I'll tell you a secret in the conversation that I had with Tenuta. I had a conversation about changing the label because Fresh Face former producer Albert isn't on the show anymore, and Brett isn't on the show anymore. So you've got really two. They're only small pictures depicting both of them on the label, I believe. But what they said was we can change the label now to include Kim and John. And
I don't think I saw them on my label. It was just Mark.
Oh, you know why?
That must have been a mistake.
Yeah. Well, it was a good mistake. It was a good mistake.
It's fantastic. You never know where John and I will be, but you gotta be on the label there.
Well, I'm glad you said that because that's what I said. I said, hey, I don't know, I can't count on anybody anymore. I mean, did you hear what happened to my radio station? Right. So
you never know.
Let's just keep it simple. Right. So there is at Tenuta Vineyard, that is the Mark Thompson Why Are You Yelling Red? And it is good by all.
Why are you yelling?
Yeah. So,
I mean, it's good.
Yeah. So give me the situation on David Katz. We're trying to get him to call in now. He couldn't work the...
David's having some technical challenges, so we're trying everything we can.
But he can on his cell phone, he can't just hit that link and
that's what he's trying to do. So I'm doing tech support,
No, I know.
I'm going back to my old job.
That's right, John.
For Mo Direct, who writes the iteration of the label with the Mark vintage may be of value. Yes, I got in trouble with my husband for opening the Why Are You Yelling Red because he said it was going to be a collector's item after the Station X debacle. That's why I've got to find more of it. I don't have a job, but I'm looking to spend money on fine wine. You see how it goes? She's not so smart, that girl.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how big a collector's item it'll be, but it might be. Yeah. We're actually looking for, it is true, Mo is saying the iteration of the label with Mark may be of value. So depending on what vintage you have, it could be of varying value. Clarence Thomas bails out Lindsey Graham, of course. He's, I mentioned this at the top of the show. That's kind of jargon for the beginning of the show. I mentioned that Clarence Thomas sort of, and he's the Supreme Court justice who handles these appeals. He stayed the subpoena, essentially said you don't need to honor the subpoena right now. It's a temporary stay. But it reminds you that Lindsey Graham, who was someone who placed a call to the Georgia Secretary of State, that Brad Raffensperger guy, he was trying to allegedly we will ding. Not because it's a big word, but because we ding allegedly or alleged. He asked if Raffensperger had the power to throw out the mail-in ballots from certain counties. I mean, he was really messing with the election. I see what Graham did as tremendous legal exposure that he has, but I want to ask David Katz that. And John, when David's ready to go, you'll let me know.
We have David. Let's try it.
You do? So without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, I've kind of inherited him from Pat Thurston, but I've always wanted him to be part of things. He's David Katz. Yeah. David Katz, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Great to be with you.
Yeah.
We had a little bit of technical difficulty, but John really saved the day. So thank you, John.
Oh, wow. John,
you'll get your $5 in the mail.
Daily. Yeah. John is he's wearing a lot of hats. We all are wearing hats, but I think John wears them better than many in this mix because he's
this one is a fedora.
Yes, able to do many things. I was just speaking about Lindsey Graham's legal exposure involving this Georgia case. And the reason I mention it, I really want to get your take, David Katz, because Lindsey Graham really did try to get votes thrown out.
Well, Lindsey Graham is very eager not to testify because I think that he would either have to plead his rights under the Fifth Amendment, which is not a good look when you're a sitting U.S. senator, or he would have to say things that would be very incriminating of himself and of the whole Trump team. And so he's trying to hide behind this speech and debate clause, which I don't think applies to him at all. As it is, they're willing to limit his testimony, but actions that he took, cajoling officials in Georgia, are not speech and debate in the Senate. It's one thing to not be questioned in another place if you've made a fiery speech or you've insulted somebody on the floor of the Senate. You can't be sued for libel. You can't be, quote, questioned in another place. But it's not carte blanche to commit crimes. You know, the president's not above the law. No one's above the law. And the 100 U.S. senators are not above the law. His position is ultimately ridiculous. And I think the Supreme Court will eventually require him to testify. But, you know, these guys are all about the delay. And so, you know, they get past the midterms, they get past the next thing. Maybe the Georgia case just proceeds with other witnesses. They try to put it behind them, but not because he has a really valid legal position. And one last thing, Justice Clarence Thomas, of course, should have recused himself. Even it's fairly administrative stay at this point, but even to grant this administrative stay, even to grant 1 week of stay is not something he should have done. He should have recused, let another one of the 8 justices do it. But of course, he doesn't intend to recuse himself from the case at all, does he? He plans to rule on all the January 6th things, even though his wife was a participant.
And when you talk about recusal at the Supreme Court level, it's you're saying he should recuse because of the last point you made, which is that his wife is connected to all of this. Isn't that essentially it?
Well, yes, that's it. And there is a law which says that he's not supposed to rule on anything in which a spouse has an interest. And you can kick around, does that mean a financial interest? Does it mean a legal interest? Does it somehow exclude a political interest? But it seems to me that the statute says interest. Of course, a prudent Supreme Court justice would err on the side of caution. Of course, with Thomas, we don't have a justice who errs on the side of caution. He seems to be all in to help Trump and his wife as much as he can. I mean, that's the only thing that I can take away from it. You can argue about some of the things that Kavanaugh does. I often agree with things that Chief Justice Roberts does. But when it comes to Clarence Thomas and this particular issue, he just seems to be all in and says, you know, basically, Mark, stop me if you can. And it's very hard to stop a willful U.S. Supreme Court justice.
Yeah, and I'll remind everybody, David, that, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but he was the justice who tried to withhold when it was appealed to the Supreme Court, the text messages that went down. The committee was trying to get text messages that pertain to the January 6th attack. And you were, am I right? You can tell me if I'm wrong here on this. He was all the justices voted that, you know, that the congressional committee is entitled to that information. I think it was just, or the Justice Department, I forget which. And but one Supreme Court justice said, no, I don't want those communications to actually be released. As it turns out, his wife was very much a part of those communications. And so Clarence Thomas, in that case, didn't recuse either.
Well, the decision was 8-1. And of course, history will take note. I mean, it's questionable what we can do right now about it, but history will take note that this was one of the most corrupt actions by a Supreme Court justice ever, because as you said, when they were over his one dissenting vote released, there was his wife's name in communications with Mark Meadows about January 6th. And it was obvious that he should have recused himself from that case. And of course, the question is, you know, what to do. And it actually is a problem to try to put any review over the U.S. Supreme Court. It's the highest, you know, point of one of our 3 branches of government. It's the check and balance. Who can really check them? Now, a Congress that wanted to could cut their budget. It could do other things like that. I mean, if the Supreme Court got into a real battle with Congress and Congress had made up its mind to set down, you know, principles and rules for the Supreme Court, the truth is that Congress has an awful lot of power, but they're not really consistently into many of these issues, Mark. And so basically the Supreme Court sometimes acts more powerful than the other branches. They say it was the least dangerous branch. And you look at something like Dobbs, it's pretty dangerous branch sometimes, isn't it? The third branch.
It seems as though it's the branch that is most effective in getting things done right now. I mean, I'd suggest that what they're getting done is ain't good, but they aren't encumbered by having to get a 2/3 majority or this kind of thing. I mentioned 2/3 majority, and it's good in the context of the Supreme Court to remind people that, because I hear a lot of this. Well, can't they impeach Clarence Thomas? Can't they? The impeachment of a Supreme Court justice, you'll need a 2/3 majority, and you'll need a 2/3 majority to expand the court. So that whole thing about the Democrats are going to expand the court, they can't expand the court. They can't get an infrastructure deal with everything that was on the wish list passed. They had to make significant compromises. So not saying it wasn't a significant piece of legislation, but I'm just saying a 2/3 majority to either expand the court or remove Clarence Thomas, forget it.
Well, Mark, actually, that's one that it's good you have a guest with my long legal experience and in particular my interest in this topic. I was going to write a book about this 3 or 4 years ago when the Kavanaugh confirmation was such a hot topic about whether you could expand the court, because you could see it coming 5-4, and now with Barrett you can see it coming 6-3. It is 6-3. But the reality is you can expand the court by mere legislation, Mark, because the Constitution doesn't call out a specific number of justices on the Supreme Court. And Lincoln expanded the Supreme Court to 10. It was 10 for a while, 10 justices on the Supreme Court. Then I think one of them passed away or retired, and so they went back to 9. And then, of course, there's the famous incident where FDR tried to, quote, pack the court. It was a very complicated plan. It would have expanded the court, and it could have been done by a majority of both houses and the signature of the president. So actually,
So is it just a simple? Sorry, David, but I have to get this clear, because I was under the impression that it was a 2/3 majority. But you're saying it's a simple majority from House and Senate?
Yes, it's a simple majority. Now, as you pointed out, it would be subject to probably the filibuster rule because it's a major piece of legislation. But the filibuster is only a creation of the Senate. The Senate could sit right now and say, you know what, on certain issues, we're carving that out. And but they could carve this one out. But it's a matter of the Constitution. As a matter of law, they could do it with a simple majority in the House, in the Senate. The president signs it, and they could have 11 members of the Supreme Court or 13. Now, people say, well, you know, then when the Republicans get back in power, they'll go to 15. And my point always is, and Pat Thurston and I used to kick this around all the time, is that, okay, if you're so afraid of what's going to happen in the future, you're not going to get anything done in the present sometimes. And you know what? Let them go to 15 if that's going to be our fate in 10 years. But for now, what are we going to do about the environment? What are we going to do about Dobbs type of cases on the Supreme Court? What are we going to do about some of these rules that a state legislature can do whatever it wants and not even be reviewed by state courts? Forget the federal courts. The Supreme Court might rule that even the state courts can't rein in a state legislature. I mean, look, people are going to just live with those decisions because this court 6-3. They're going to just live with them for decades and decades. And
couldn't agree more.
Which does not require
say it again. It does not require what, David? Say it again. The last part. It does not require.
It does not require anything more than a simple majority in both houses. It would require a majority of the House, which may go Republican. It would require 50, or now with Vice President Harris, only 50 votes in the Senate and could be done. They'd have to carve out this piece of legislation from the filibuster rule and the signature of Biden. You could have 11 or 15 or 13 members of the U.S. Supreme Court. My own recommendation is 11. I think 11 is elegant because it puts Roberts right back in the pivotal situation. And you could say, you know what? We're not really changing the dynamic that much. It's just the way the world was when Kennedy was a swing vote or with Roberts as a swing vote. 13, of course, would give the Democrats a majority. They'd go from 6-3 to 7-6 with 13.
Well, it's I'd love to hear it talked about at higher levels. It seems to be a third rail. It's always used as a talking point by the GOP, but I don't really hear any serious conversation about it at the highest levels of the Democratic Party. But that for the next time. David, slowly we get all the technical stuff worked out, and it'll be easier and easier every time. So I appreciate you being here. David Katz, you can see the former assistant U.S. attorney on Twitter at David Katz Law. You can reach him there if you have any further comments on this conversation. But let's do it again next week. All right, David, thank you.
Great to be with you, and we'll get it better organized next week as we keep rolling.
Yeah, you got it. No problem. Thank you, pal. All right. David Katz, everybody. And our OG, the founding sponsor, our exclusive sponsor on the Mark Thompson Show is Steve Moskowitz, everyone. Come on. Better lit than anybody else on the show, by the way. It's kind of like, I don't know what that is. You know, he makes my lighting look crude. And I have, well, actually, it is crude, my lighting. But you look great, Steve Moskowitz, and I want to talk taxes with you.
Thanks, Mark. You're looking great, too. And I love talking about taxes.
Yeah, you do.
And eventually we'll talk about things other than ERC, because we do a lot of other things, too. But ERC is just so exciting because the government is giving away $26,000 for every employee that you have that qualifies. And what I'm warning people about is beware of the two extremes. There's two different ways to qualify. What I call the easy way and then the complex way. The easy way is a certain drop in gross revenue. It's a mathematical number. You either made it or you didn't. Nothing to think about. And a lot of firms, a lot of CPAs are stopping there and saying, if your gross revenue didn't go down by a certain amount, that's it. No ERC for you. Goodbye. Not the case. The law clearly says either or. The other method is more complex. You have to think about it. It's called full or partial closure, a facts and circumstances test. For example, any business in the state of California from the beginning of the pandemic until June 15th, 21, could only use 25% of the inside of their business. Even an essential business like a food store, like Safeway, could only use 25% of their store, which means they had a 75% government-ordered partial closure, or supply chain disruptions, or this or that. There's a laundry list. It takes some work. We're willing to do the work. We'll sit down with you, and we'll do one of two things. If you don't qualify, we'll tell you why. If you do qualify, we'll also tell you why, and then we want to get you every penny to which you're legally entitled. But watch out for the other extreme, because there's a bunch of companies that have popped up just to do ERC, and they're going to be long gone when the IRS has a few questions they want to ask. And there's been a lot of fraud, Mark. Obviously, you never want to do a fraud in anything. Certainly, you don't want to fraudulently claim a benefit on your taxes to which you're not entitled. So the bottom line, that's why I'm saying avoid the two extremes. Clearly, obviously, nobody wants to do a fraud, but you watch out that some company doesn't drag you into that. But on the other hand, watch out with a company that doesn't want to do the work and just looking for the easy way out. We're a law firm of over 30 years experience. We want to work with you. We want to get you everything to which you're legally entitled, no more and no less.
Steve Moskowitz can be reached 888-TAX-DEAL, 888-TAXDEAL, 888-TAX-DEAL. You can check out your situation as far as ERC goes. If you're a small business owner, regardless of the size, Steve can evaluate that for you in all the ways that he just detailed and more. And you can also reach him online, MoskowitzLLP.com. You can say, hey, I saw you on Mark's show. I wonder if you'd look at my situation. There are a lot of people who have questions for you, and maybe on another day we'll take some questions from the audience. I would encourage. That's why we give you the phone number, though, 888-TAX-DEAL. You can ask your question directly to the best lit tax advisor you'll ever speak to, Steve Moskowitz. Steve, we love you, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you, sir.
Love you too. Thanks, Mark.
Okay, my friend, Steve Moskowitz. And got a couple of special thank yous here as we continue. Then we'll take Kim's News. I've got Dan Ashley. You know what I'll do? Let's go to Kim's News soon. $49.99 from Candace. Check it out. Not only from me, but also Saratoga's letter carriers. Wow, we listen to you every day when we deliver the mail. Wow.
What?
Yes, I love that. That's terrific. Thank you. Andrew Peters with a super sticker donation. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. I wonder if Dan Ashley knows how many drops we have of him. We got to prepare all of them. Eric, is it you? Eric, you? Best show on the planet. Come on.
Thank you so much.
Wow, that's terrific. Thank you. $20 from Eric. Thank you. Helps keep the show on the air. Sadly, it's really the only way to do it.
Big shout out.
Big shout out. Big shout out.
Big shout out.
Yeah. Dan Ashley will be joining us right after Kim's News. This is the Mark Thompson Show. We're excited that you joined us. And Dan is standing by in the green room. We'll get to him as we continue right after Kim's news. Yeah.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. President Biden rolling up his sleeve for an updated COVID booster shot this hour. He is urging everyone else to do the same. The White House pushing efforts to get Americans boosted against the latest Omicron variants ahead of the holiday season. A group of House Democrats dropping their request for President Biden to speak directly with Russia to end the Ukraine war. The chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus withdrawing a letter sent to President Biden Monday, urging him for direct talks with Russia to perhaps reach a diplomatic solution to the war. Chairwoman Pramila Jayapal says the letter was drafted several months ago and staff put it out despite not vetting it. What? Candidates in the Pennsylvania high-stakes Senate race set to square off tonight for the first and only debate. Democratic Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman will face Republican Mehmet Oz in a race that could determine control of the Senate. Fetterman, who suffered a stroke in May, has seen his lead in the polls shrink to a virtual toss-up with the celebrity TV doctor. Emperor penguins are now covered by the Endangered Species Act. The new listing requires federal agencies to reduce threats to species that have become vulnerable due to melting sea ice caused by climate change. Experts predict the 99% of the population of the emperor penguins will be extinct by the end of the century. So we're going to do the best we can to save those little guys. New developments in one of California's most notorious murder cases. Scott Peterson moved off death row. He was transferred from San Quentin to a prison in Door County now, coming 2 years after the state Supreme Court overturned his sentence for killing his pregnant wife Lacey at their Modesto home in 2002. The 50-year-old Peterson resentenced to life in prison, and a decision on a possible new trial is expected soon as well. An open letter to Meta says the company has too many employees and is just moving too slowly to gain the confidence of investors. Altimer Capital chairman and CEO Brad Gerstner writing the letter recommending a plan he says will get the company's mojo back. It includes reducing headcount expenses by 20% and limiting the company's pricey investments in metaverse technology to no more than $5 billion a year. And WhatsApp online after suffering a global outage yesterday. The messaging app company owned by Facebook parent Meta first detected problems yesterday, according to downdetector.com, which monitors outages across the internet services. WhatsApp was restored about 2 hours after it went out. And this report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses alike. If you need help with your taxes, give Steve a call at 888-TAX-DEAL. Catch him online, moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson. Do you feel it? It's the Mark Thompson Show.
This is Mark Thompson.
Feels great, baby.
It's unbelievably offensive.
Ralph Nader just sent me a book. Did he send you one too?
What he's got going here is a situation.
Put up your pants, my man. Pull up those pants.
I play air guitar. Dan Ashley plays real guitar.
You cannot say you love your country.
Let me kick down the door and talk to my stupid sons and daughters.
Right on, brother. Right on. Yeah. Hit the like button. You know.
Don't make us beg. Subscribe, like, and share.
Don't make us beg. Don't make us
The Mark
beg.
Thompson Show.
Yes. All right. I am so excited about this next gig. This guy has been on the show a lot, and yet I have never spoken to him on the show. You know him from ABC7. He is a veteran news guy, a journalist, and anchorman, and so excited that he is part of our big launch month. He's Dan Ashley, everybody. Hi, Dan Ashley.
Mark, I'm so thrilled to be on with you. Thanks for having me.
It really is the coolest. I was really looking forward to this because I listened to you fill in for me a little bit, like I heard an hour here, 50 minutes there, and I was fascinated by stuff I never would have guessed about you. And it relates to sort of your background and stuff, and I want to talk to you about some of that now. So,
you're so kind.
No, it's true. By the way, does Dan know? You know that you're on this show probably more than any other voice because of your drops.
I didn't know that.
It's a. Let's see. Where are my Dan Ashley drops? Do you have them?
Oh, Mark, you're so kind. I'm flattered.
Thank
you so much.
Yeah.
Big shout out.
Yeah. Where are the? Let me see. Let me put my drop glasses on. Hold on a second. I have to go in deep.
Thank you so much. Kim, how are you?
Yeah.
Fabulous producer, John Daly.
Yeah, these are all. These are heard all the time. You don't understand. I mean, they're heard so often. And somebody mentioned, he said, I don't think Dan knows that we use these drops all the time.
I didn't. I live in infamy. Thank you. That's
Yeah,
very
you
kind
really
of
do. Well,
Thank you so much.
I don't know of infamy, but I think you're definitely, you've got your own level of celebrity on this show.
Oh, you're so kind. Thank you.
You're the voice behind the voice. All right, so now I want to ask you about something that struck me during your conversations when you filled in for me on this show, and that was that you were a figure skater at one point. Is that the way am I remembering this wrong, or is that correct?
No, it's true, actually. You know, Mark, I did a lot of sports when I was younger, but when I was, I first started skating when I was born in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and at 1 year old, we moved to Buffalo, New York for 7 years. My dad took a job there, and it was very common for people to build ice rinks in their backyard because it got so cold. You frame it with wood, put plastic. So I learned to skate. That continued when we moved back to North Carolina, and I became a figure skater, competitive, locally, regionally, and did ice shows and stuff like that, and then started teaching when I was in college. And my senior year in college, I taught 4 or 5 nights a week, and I would teach beginners and intermediate skaters, sometimes more advanced skaters. Yeah, it was fun.
So you would lift, you would do that thing where you lift the other skater above your head, and you would do all those, right?
I did. I was 5'10" when I finished high school, and then the first summer I grew about 4 inches, so I'm 6'2" now. You don't see a lot of competitive figure skaters, pairs, partners, freestyle skaters who are that big. They're usually smaller. So I could do ice dance because the lines are nice. So I really shifted to a lot of ice dance. But I did have a pairs partner, and I could tell you, Mark, one of the scariest things in the world is to pick her up over your head, and I'll tell you why. First of all, she was a great skater, and she was a normal-sized woman, which means...
So you're saying she was on the heavier side.
She was on the heavier side, but she wasn't heavy. But she wasn't heavy at all. But
I get it.
Picking you up over the head, she was heavy, but she wasn't heavy. If you know what I mean.
I understand. There was nothing objectionable. You're not passing judgment. You're simply saying, as a simple physics fact, it was a little bit of an equation to get her over your head.
It could be that I was just weak.
Yeah, right. You're saying, okay, that's true too.
But the scariest thing is what people don't.
She's probably saying in her conversation, I don't want to say he was weak, but he was, just not. I mean, he was normal for a normal guy. She's having that conversation.
Not weak. No, yeah, exactly right.
Right. All right.
Who is having that conversation?
Okay, go ahead.
When you're holding someone over your head and you have their hands, right, because your hands are locked. If you fall or trip or lose your balance, what you are supposed to do is immediately let her go and fall on her own, which is very counterintuitive.
Sure.
Because you want to protect her and not let her hit the ice hard. But if you hang on to her and hold her hands, she can't get her hands in front of her to protect her. So the fall is first thing you're taught is let her go, because otherwise she falls on her face, because you're holding her hands and she's unprotected. It was scary.
So it would seem to me inevitable that there are going to be people. I mean, we see it at the highest levels of competition. People fall all the time.
Sure, you do. And I only took 2 really bad falls in all of my skating, but 2 where I got hurt a little bit. But, it was great fun. But I wasn't going to the Olympics, Mark. I wasn't that good. I could do ice show kind of stuff. And
I
wasn't that good. I could do ice shows.
But I was in Disney on Ice. Yeah,
I'm not that good, but I could do ice shows.
Yeah, well, no, not as a featured performer. I could be like a chorus.
Oh my! I wasn't featured. I was on, but it's in the ice show. Dan, come on!
I guess what I'm saying is there was no real career there. So
you're being modest.
Why are you yelling?
All right. Let me ask you this, and then I'll move on from figure skating because you have this rock and roll world that you're into. I want to ask you, when you watch the Olympics, one of the things that bothers me about, and there are other sports besides just figure skating that fall into this category, when they're being judged by panels of judges, it seems to me to be very subjective. It's clearly subjective, but I mean, almost arbitrary in some cases, and then almost like a fix is in other cases. That used to be the case growing up as a kid. I watched, the Russian judge, you figure you throw that one out, and it was like the Eastern Bloc countries voted one way, the Western countries. Now that's changed a bit, but there still is an arbitrary aspect to this. Doesn't that bother you as an expert? You're someone who can look at it with a critical eye. Doesn't it bother you, the arbitrariness of the judging system?
It does. It does. And it's unlike most sports. Most sports, are you the fastest? Did you score the most points? It's very clear who won and who lost. It bothered me when I was competing and we had judges because you would go to different regions and, you often felt that if the judges were from that region, they may favor skaters from that region, or they know, there's a network of people that know one another. And and that could benefit you or hurt you. I never did like that aspect of it. I don't think there's any other way to really do it. And I think dismissing the high and low score is probably one way to mitigate that. But it's a little uncomfortable at times because someone comes in with a big reputation, they get a little more credit for their routine often if they're the favored person, even if it's almost subliminal. So there is a little bit of an aspect of it that is not quite pure.
Yeah, right. And you see people robbed of glory a little bit occasionally. I mean, just to put a point on it. So,
and Mark, just heads up, it looks like we've had a light earthquake here in San Francisco.
Oh,
really?
I'll get more information.
So light that Dan hasn't felt it.
No, my internal seismograph did not pick that up.
We'll continue to watch that for you. Yeah. And speaking of rock and roll, we'll watch the earthquake situation. Yeah, right. I did want to ask you. Very strong in San Jose, says Andrea.
Yeah, I'm looking up the magnitude right now.
And what are they saying at USGS?
I don't have it yet. It's not on the list yet.
Okay, let's see.
A sudden jolt and small movement after that, says Randy on the
I love
chat
that
line.
Dan Ashley is like looking up news. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
Look at him there.
He's
like, I'll talk
our-
about skating, and
Why
now
don't
we'll
you
do a
just
little
text
news.
it?
Let us know. Text it from how you felt where you are. Mild in the San Francisco-Richmond district, says Katie. In Mountain View, nothing.
It was mild enough in the Dolores Park area where it just felt like a rumble. It was light enough that I didn't know if it was an earthquake. I thought it might have been a truck downstairs.
Okay.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
Well, then let me just ask you, and we'll continue to watch this, and maybe there'll be an aftershock or whatever. The world that you have creatively as a musician is one that fascinates me. I mean, we've talked about the fact, and we tease you on this show, about the fact that your best friend or your good friend is Sammy Hagar, and that was so great when you had him on. I just loved it. Conversation could have gone for hours.
Oh, yeah, he's such a good guy.
Yeah, and you met him where?
Boy, that's a great question. I met him, interesting. I did an interview. The first time I met him, I did an interview with him, ironically, the day after my mother had passed away out here.
Oh, my gosh.
And he was very kind about it. I didn't want to cancel, and there was, nothing I could do. So I just thought, well, let's go to work and, sort of numb. And I think that's where we first met. Although, actually, we talked on the phone years before. I had reached out to him to see if he had any interest in playing my Rock the Casa charity. That's right. I forgot about this. He called me back the next day, and we had a great 20-minute phone conversation. That's how we really connected, but I don't think we met in person until a couple of years later after my mother had passed away, and I did that interview. And so I've seen him, periodically, stay in touch with him here and there, and he invites me.
Let me just double back for a second. When you, the day after your mother passed away, are talking to Sammy Hagar, you're having this interview, you're saying that your mood and emotion was informed by what you had just been through the day before. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, it was, and I was still sort of processing. I was a little numb, and as if anyone who's gone through that knows, you just don't feel. But I was sort of I didn't know what to do. So I thought, well, just sitting at home makes no sense. I have this interview scheduled today. I'm just going to go to work. And I did. And I'll take time off, as it comes time to, make plans for her funeral and all of that.
And were you openly emotional and he consoled you, or you're saying that that's just in the back of your head? It was sort of just keeping you kind of.
Mark, I told my wife, I was reminded of this yesterday for some odd reason, told my wife about it. He was very kind. We're sitting at a table at his restaurant that he had at the time in Marin. And I just mentioned to him, because I was a little off my game beforehand, I said, I'll get my act together here, but my mother passed away yesterday. And he reached over and he put his hand on my forearm and kind of held me for a second and said, "I'm sorry, buddy." It was very sweet. It was just a nice moment. And then we moved on. It was very kind of him. I thought he just, and he had a look in his eyes. He really felt bad for me, which was very kind.
No, that is special. That's a nice sort of insight into who he is. You mentioned his restaurant. He's got a restaurant. I mean, I know that one may have closed, but he became this entrepreneur with a tequila company and I've got a place in Cabo, and it's unreal how he monetized his celebrity and his skill as a musician. Who he was in the music world.
He's very clever as a business person. He's a phenomenal musician. He just released a new song that I just love called "Father Time," which is it really speaks to him getting older, and it's a very personal song. But he was very clever. He did what sort of like Jimmy Buffett and others have done. He created a lifestyle around his brand, and that Mexico, Cabo, San Lucas kind of lifestyle, and it fit with restaurants and his tequila and his mixers that he has and other things. So he's been brilliant in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of what we end up having to do here. We have to do it to kind of now in our new reconstituted world. We have to do stuff like that. I'm talking about selling merch and getting people to support us just to keep the lights on. But Hagar did such a good job merchandising himself just to, build his brand. And now it's done by so many others. I mean,
it's so true.
You look at George Clooney and you look at some of these other celebrities who they also had a tequila brand, et cetera. Randy Gerberg, I think, was with George. But the thing that is different is that it wasn't Clooney first. Hagar put himself out there, so he owned the brand, meaning he owned it with his personage, and he got out there, as you say, with the mixers and all the rest. So, you knew you were going to Sammy Hagar's place, and you were drinking his tequila, et cetera.
That's so true. And, he was very clever. Apparently, as he tells the story, the Van Halen brothers, the band, didn't particularly like him wearing shirts on stage that marketed his products. So they did appreciate that. So guess what he did, Mark and Kim? He got a tattoo that said Cabo Wabo. So they couldn't take it off. He took off the T-shirts and got an arm tattoo, I think.
Right. F with this, mother effers. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, the Quake, USGS is saying, we have it on the screen for you now, a 5.0 centered near Mount Hamilton, San Jose. 5.0 is not nothing,
No. We get a lot of 3s and 4s. So 5, you're starting to get up there where that's still in the mild or moderate category, I would think, or certainly moderate. But that's enough. That's a lot stronger than we usually see around here on a regular basis.
They say
so no wonder it's
7 miles deep.
That's good.
And there's the map of it. You can see it's in a neighborhood of the San Jose area called Seven Trees. And magnitude 5. They say they're calling it a 5.1 at this point. And of course, that's preliminary. But I'll say it took a little longer to get that information. Usually we get it really quick. And this one, it's taken a little time. So that's right near Mount Hamilton. And a lot of people around the Bay Area reported a jolt, feeling a little rock and rolling this morning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the kind of transmission of that seismic activity is something that is very different quake to quake, as you're aware. So, you can have a slip fault, which is like this. It kind of the ground goes like that under. It's happening way down in the ground, and you can have these transcurrent movements of the play. So, depending on that.
A little aftershock, a little 3.1. Look at that.
Wow. Yeah. So
and the other interesting thing to keep in mind, the difference between, say, a 5.0 and a 5.1 is actually more significant than it sounds. We sort of forget that. So a quake that's a 4.5 is not nearly as strong as a 5.0.
Such a good point. The Richter scale is it almost it seems in this age of where everything is a scale and everything is an alert, and we've got a green, yellow, red situation, or we have new color palettes on COVID exposure, and all of that. It seems as though the Richter scale. I know it's the thing. I don't mean to take anything away from it, but as Dan says, it's so. In a way, it's tough to get your head around because the movement in terms of severity from 4.5 to 5.0 is far greater than you would associate the movement being from 4.5 to 5.0. So I don't know. It seems I don't mean to be a rebel or un-American, but I'm just suggesting the Richter scale may have to be joined by another scale. That perhaps better reflects. The thing about living in the Bay Area or living in California or a seismically active area is you begin to know the shorthand of the Richter scale. So that, as you say, Dan, a 5.0 is in the moderate category and begins to be of greater concern. Generally, 3s and 4s, not so much.
Right.
But,
yeah, 3s and 4s, they get our attention, obviously, but you don't expect much damage other than maybe a few things knocked off shells, nothing significant. 5, you probably wouldn't get a lot of damage either, maybe just right underneath where it ruptured. But once it gets a little beyond that, certainly. But a 5 is certainly more significant than we see ordinarily around here.
We got a few chat texts coming in from people who got it, the notification on their phone again, just like we had it last time. John Watson said, my phone made a ring I've never heard before. It was the earthquake notification alert. Yvonne says, yep, my Shake app went off before it even started. So a lot of people saying, yeah, they got the note just a few seconds before the earthquake hit in San Jose.
Well, Nikki does a show, the Nikki Maduro Show, which follows ours on the Nikki Maduro Show channel and right here on YouTube. And she says, this happened pretty much near my neighborhood.
Really? Wow.
Funny story about how I figured out it was an earthquake, and we'll talk about it when the show kicks off at noon. So she both related it to the quake and the current situation, and she promoted her show at the same time, and I have mad respect for that. Yeah, very well done. All right. Speaking of promoting, tell us about ABC7, what's going on, if they're meaning any special series or anything we need to know, any new shows, hours we can watch. This is we want to show you some love, Dan Ashley. So.
You guys are the best. I first of all, let me just say congratulations to you and to Kim and to everyone, Nikki, the whole crew coming over, starting this YouTube channel and carrying on. People love your show. I have to tell you, Mark, every time I would fill in for you, and you're always so kind to let me fill in, but every time I'd fill in for you, I cannot tell you how many people would come up to me in the days afterward and say, hey, heard you today. Love Mark. Nice hearing you on the show. I mean, it was remarkable. You made a real mark. So
great to hear.
I was always proud to be on there. Big shout out.
Okay, big shout out.
Big shout out. Is it live or Memorex?
Yeah,
I can't tell.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, we've got a lot going on at ABC7. We have a lot. We have a streaming app now, and we're putting some terrific programming on that streaming app all the time. Of course, we'll be all over this earthquake today in the San Jose area, that 5.0. But we have an initiative that we call Building a Better Bay Area, and it really informs what we do every day because we are sincerely out there trying to find stories and issues and causes that make a difference in our community and report on them and focus on problems, but not just problems, the solutions to those problems. So we've done a lot of reporting around that, and I'm very proud to be able to do that kind of work, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I also see the climate initiative that you guys have in terms of reporting on climate. I mean, I feel as though that's been an orphan story for too long, and I'd love to see a local media organization picking that up as aggressively you have. Spencer's been through, he's a friend of the show as well, and he talks about that. So many areas of concern, homelessness and the issues involving crime that affect all of the Bay Area. You have a lot on your plate already, so it's great to see you turning your attention to some of these other issues involving a climate and beyond. In a way, the streaming is a great additional outlet. You're not limited to an hour show or whatever it may be. You have another forum and platform for many of the stories that you want to do.
It's so true, and what's nice about it, it's 24/7, and we're not limited by time in terms of newscasts or the length of stories. As you well know, Mark, having been a veteran of television news in your prior life, we have time limits. So that story needs to be 1 minute and 30 seconds or 2 minutes or whatever it is. They can be whatever they need to be on streaming. So it's a really great chance to kind of explore these stories in a even more full way, which is fun to do.
We love. Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
I was just going to say, I'm just so fortunate. Like you, Mark and Kim, I've done the job I've always wanted to do, and I've been very fortunate to do it. So,
I just would like it noted that you may be going to ABC7 to do a big newscast tonight, but where you broke the earthquake right here on the Mark Thompson Show.
You can maybe mention it on Mark's new show. It might be awkward to mention it, come to think of it.
If I can work it in, I promise you I will.
I don't know. I mean, maybe just go with big shout out.
Big shout out.
Yeah, and then you're going to say, hey.
How often do you get to break news with the chief anchor for the Bay Area? Like, that's cool.
We feel very lucky. So very cool, Dan Ashley. All right, we watch you on ABC7, and we look forward to your next visit. Thanks for hanging out and talking about stuff that we were really curious about. I was so glad we got into that figure skating thing because I was dying to ask you some questions about it. So really
you're
cool.
So great. Well, please have me back anytime. I'm thrilled with what you guys are doing. So happy for you, and keep on keeping on because you're just doing something great. People love what you do.
Rock and roll, my friend. Thanks, Dan Ashley.
Thanks, Dan Ashley.
So long. Dan Ashley. Yeah.
That guy's
Big shout out.
Big shout out.
Right. Fun fact from John Watson on the text line.
Why don't you just text it?
The inventor of the Richter scale was an avid nudist.
What?
That's right. You like to see everything shaken, if you know what I'm saying.
Is that true? If it's true, that's great. This is my cat's first earthquake, says Jay Moss, 99. She will never trust my closets again. My closet doors hang and rattle during earthquakes. Yeah. Well, this is like, you know what they're going to tell you in every, and I'll be another one to tell you this. You should make sure you have one of those go bags and, all of your medications and all that stuff in one place, and you have food and water to sustain you for at least a few days. Because you never know. I mean, I think these little quakes or littler quake. This is not a little quake. I mean, anything over 5, I'd say 5 up is a moderate quake, as Dan was saying.
Oh yeah.
But I'm saying these quakes, when the Earth moves, remind us of what we need to do. So
you do not know what you are talking about.
Thank you. That's exactly right. So
I think natives would agree. Like anything 4 and below, it's like meh.
I have a standards and protocols in place.
Oh yeah, you do have processes.
We have processes and protocols and standards.
Over the last 20 years, I've developed a system for when an earthquake is reportable on the news and when it's not. I say 2.8 or above. 2.8, that's when people start feeling it. If I get phone calls, if I used to get phone calls into the newsroom, I'd say, okay, I'll do your 2.6 or 2. But usually 8 and above, that's what
I'll do your 2.8.
Kim, my dishes are rattling.
There
you go. Got to get it on the air.
Oh, my God.
What he's got going here is a situation.
That's exactly right. Well, it's time for us to, it's a logarithmic. Richter scale is logarithmic, meaning that there are it gets exponentially more powerful as you go up the scale. All my 50 glass pumpkins are fine, says Yvonne. I want to thank I had one thing fall off a shelf, but it sure went on a long time, says Debbie. Yeah, I'm hearing this, that it's in the text room. I'm hearing that it was sort of like a rolling quake for a while. But my shake app went off.
It felt like a quake that didn't quite start. Like it was trying to turn over. That's what it felt like. I
see. Yeah, okay. Well, I hope it's done. I hope it's done for a long time, I want to thank everybody who joined us today. You can find us and everything about us and ways to support us at themarkthompsonshow.com. The Mark Thompson Show has our Patreon link. That's a way you can support us on an ongoing basis, and that's what we need. We need to have oxygen for this show. And frankly, the oxygen is now made up by an advertiser. We have Steve Moskowitz, and by you, the audience. So, as I've told you before, I'm not taking money, but we've got people we got to pay. Kim and John, and I want to pay Tony. And so these are all aspects of this economic stream that we need to build out And so I appreciate so much those of you who stepped up. It really has been great. And I'm looking forward to doing more on the stream. Now, do you know how to end the show, John? Did he run through that?
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. It's my first time ending a show because we're out of time.
We are out of time. It is it's very exciting. I know. Shadow, where are you? Where are you, Shadow?
Down to 5% battery.
We're down to 5%. Shadow, where are you?
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
All right, okay.
Out of time. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. A little wild with the quake at the end. Tune over to Nikki on the Nikki Maduro Show. And until next time, bye-bye.